Well, hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, we're back again.
Yeah, we got another one coming.
We do?
Yeah,
And as usual, we have no idea what we're going to discuss.
that's right. Just like our episode
We
number.
have no idea what episode we're on.
But we do know that we have the one and only man behind the scenes.
I'm just here to referee today, boys.
Oh, you've been doing a lot of that recently.
I have been.
And I just want to point out there's no rhyme or reason to our guest at all. He just happened to be walking by the shop, and he's like, hey, I'll join.
I just came to check out the new concrete.
Yeah.
Your VIP parking pass.
My VIP parking.
Anybody who's paying attention to this on YouTube or something's going to have no idea what you're talking about for the next 6 months.
Yeah, this is true. We should probably paint a quick little picture here, but if you guys follow me on YouTube, we poured a wash bay / basketball court outside of the shop doors.
Yeah.
/ VIP parking for man behind the scenes.
Is VIP parking spot. So we'll just let them play along for a while and see how this goes. But
Yeah.
it is what it is at this point. So what topic do we have on hand today, sir? You never inform me of what we're going to discuss because you don't want me to be allowed to prepare.
Mostly because I'm also not prepared. Let's just talk about employees. How's that?
Oh boy,
We've got your favorite one here.
I
Yes.
don't have employees. Let's make that perfectly clear right
That's
now.
how I said it's your favorite one. You're sitting across from me.
And I'm his idol, so
Oh, yeah.
If this was a train, we just jumped the tracks, boys. We just jumped the tracks.
I do love that button.
I do have some experience from both sides of this, from multiple employees to no employees.
Yeah. Have you ever been an employee?
I have been an employee.
So you're full spectrum.
Oh yeah, I've hired, I've fired, I've worked. I've never been fired. I don't think.
That's fixing to change. You're fired.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, think about that. I don't think I've been fired.
think hard.
You've tried to fire me, but
Hard to fire the owner, I
yeah,
guess.
it don't.
You're just not trying hard
It's
enough.
perfectly clear you do not understand how that actually works.
Yeah. All I can do is take his driving privileges away from the service truck.
Yeah.
For the record, I didn't wreck that, but no, yeah, I've been an employee from I've been an employee for small business owners. I've been an employee for a medium-sized company, a dealership, and I've also been an employee of a very large corporation, Lowe's. And I've been self-employed with up to about 15 employees at one time that worked underneath me. And I've also been self-employed with 0 employees. So, yeah, what do you want to know? I'm full of knowledge on this one.
I don't know. What do you want to tell me?
Well, I think first off, anybody that's going to be self-employed or going to be a boss, I think there's a lot of knowledge to be gained of actually being an employee.
Right.
I mean, because it gives you, like, whenever we had the construction business, there'd be situations come up. Like, I fully understand where they were coming from and what they were thinking because I'd been there. I worked for a construction company as an employee, and those same situations arise. Now, I'm not going to lie. After I become a boss and these same situations arise, I had a whole different perspective of what it was really like from the other side of things.
Right.
So, moral of that story is if you are an employee and you've never if you never managed people or owned a business that has employees, there's a lot more to that than what you see for face value.
So what you mean to tell me is that if I'm working for you for $18 an hour, I'm not actually costing you $18 an hour?
Well, so that is completely true. If you're working for me for $18 an hour, you're
On the books.
On the books, your hourly rate is dependent on what options I give you, from insurance to retirement, etc. But I think on average, an $18 employee for us 4 or 5 years ago used to cost between $23 and $24 an hour. By the time we paid all the frills and figured in paid vacation and stuff, but that's not really the route I was going down as much as.
Well, I feel like that's just the first thing that I hear everybody say.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, and it's stuff 100% out of our control. Aaron's even got a little different perspective on this because he works out of a union hall.
Right.
So they, I don't know what an average Boilermaker's wage is, mid-20s. This is going to turn into negotiations.
Yeah, we might negotiate. Full package is right at $67
And 32 cents.
and that on the check would be right at, I think right now it's like 39 on the check.
So 39 is what you bring home,
Yes.
but 67 is what
Your
it costs
benefits,
you. It
yeah.
costs you to operate that. So
Yeah. Because like on your part as a contractor, what you do when you would go bid a job, you up the package to $72 per person. You do that 3 to 4%, 5%
so
increase.
in layman's terms, basically, if the company, the company charges you out, they're hoping at best case scenario to make $2 an hour off of you.
Pretty well, yeah.
And that don't count all the administration fees and the phone calls and the organization it took to get you there. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're not even breaking even on that. Their big hope is the task you accomplish, justifies all. That's what it comes down to. But where I want to go with this a little bit here in the beginning, and I don't think if it's 5 employees or 500 employees, you always end up with the same issue. And I've been guilty of this myself, so I don't want to act like I'm exempt from it. But an employee is very short-minded, sees the small picture of what's going on with the company.
Well, yeah, by design, really.
Right. So whenever there's changes or there's something implemented, the only thing they care about is how it affects them immediately. Now, from a manager or an owner's perspective, and this can go either way, it can be a positive or negative change, but we're looking for the 6 month, year, 5 years, like which direction we need to go, because at least in my cases from being in that position, I am always trying to protect that job. Like I fully understand that if we keep going down the route we're going, I cannot either continue to pay you that price or that job is not going to exist.
Right.
So, nothing frustrates me more whenever I'm trying to protect that job or maybe even find a way to get them paid more on a job and I make a change or implement something and then I get backlash from it. It's like, gosh dang it, I'm trying to help you out here.
Right.
And I can't, sometimes I can't fully explain what's going on because I've, got contracts and stuff binding. And sometimes, to be honest with you, as an employee, with all due respect, it's not your business.
I think that's fair.
But if you need to work for a guy you trust,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You, at some point, you need to trust that I'm going to do everything in the power to guide you in the right direction and lead you down a path that's going to have job protection and security and all that other stuff. So, like I said, I've been that employee that's been short-minded and judgmental about what a boss was doing. And then a year and a half later, I'm like, boy.
To be fair, there are bosses out there taking advantage of their employees.
And that's one that I would, you got to be smart enough as an employee to recognize that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's real hard to do that.
No, I think it's pretty easy to figure it out, honestly.
I've worked in, I worked in a large corporation for Lowe's, for example, and we had managers within the store that were the only person they cared about themselves, and the only benefit you were to them is how good you could make them look.
Right.
Then I worked for other managers that cared about the big picture, the store, the job, the people, and with a lot less effort, they were a lot more successful.
Right.
And it don't take long to pick those out. It really don't. And those type people usually attract the higher caliber of employee.
Yeah. I would say so.
It kind of compounds itself. Now, I've worked some large union and non-union jobs. And that's a whole different mentality when you get to that level. I mean, the largest job I've ever been involved with is we had about 500 employees for about 18 or 20 days working. And the structure of how that works, the mentality, you don't have time to build relationships with people in that situation.
No, in a short period of time, too.
But all them principles I just talked about, I think, still apply. You've been involved with a lot of these big projects. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, say you got 200-300 employees. You got, say it was a 2-week job. So you got a 2-week job. You don't have that much time to get the, I don't know what I'm looking for here. The relationship with the
Yeah,
employees.
but
but
if it's a long-term job, you start reading people and you start matching them up.
exactly.
In this situation, you don't, but you still got to be a team player. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's the big thing is whenever you're that one guy over there that's ruffling the feathers and calling in safety and calling the union BA and complaining to the manager all the time, you know what? I'll be honest with you guys. That guy is going to get short-term satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like he is going to get very short-term satisfaction, and he's going to be the hero that day, that week, that whatever. But boy, did you ever just shoot yourself in the foot for anything in the future, because us contractors, I don't care if they're big, small, or large or whatever, us contractors talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can't, I mean, if you got legitimate complaints, you need to, if it's a legitimate issue, it needs to be addressed. I'm not going to discredit that.
If it's a safety concern, something like that,
Yes.
something large scale, yes, it needs to be addressed.
But I
and
think
you
we
have
all
every
know
right
the
to.
guy that wants to create the drama.
To
you
basically to be
can-
on the clock for a day and not do anything.
Right. And
He'll work harder to get out of work than to just do the job.
anyways, we may be getting a little bit off subject with that, but I guess the moral of this story is as an employee, sometimes whenever you choose to be an employee, you have no choice but to have some of your fate in somebody else's hands.
Yeah.
It's in some sense the definition of an employee.
And I mean, your family's fate too.
Right.
You know,
So your job as an employee is to find a work environment that you're confident in the people that are controlling that for you, whether that be at a factory, whether that be out of a union hall, whether that be at, Bob's Excavating down the street. I don't know what situation that is. It's really hard for bosses to be best friends with employees. I mean, in my situation, it's hard to work with even family.
right.
Because there's just conversations and situations that arise that's not going to be pretty, and you're going to have adult conversations. And then, I don't know if you want to go, sit around a campfire and drink a beer later with a guy you just chewed out or had a disagreement with, or come home and
Which is a side topic all in itself of hiring family.
yeah. I mean, I've had family work for me for years. My whole family is self-employed. We've covered this in previous podcasts. My whole family has some very, very successful businesses that I probably could have taken over if I wanted to.
Right.
I didn't for two reasons. One, the businesses they operate, I don't have a whole lot of interest in. So what's the point of that? But two, I would even if I was interested in the insurance business, which is what my family's known for, I probably would have started my own insurance firm just to avoid the family aspect of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not to compete with them, not to be out of spite.
No, but to avoid potential hard feelings or
Right.
awkward situations.
Right.
You know.
My advice to anybody as an employee is never jump to conclusions about things employers are doing. When an employer makes a decision that directly affects you, most of the employers that I know of understand that and have put thought into that.
Yeah.
But the other alternative to that, maybe you don't have a job at all. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like sometimes our backs are up against the wall and it's this or nothing. So
Yeah. Now, there's something to be said too about as from an employer's standpoint that has employees that he or she depends on. It's in their best interest to keep you.
yeah,
It's in their best interest to not lose you and have to train someone else.
9
find
times out
someone
of 10,
else.
one of the most expensive things you will do as an employer is train an employee.
Right. Because
That's
you
why
don't
you-
even know if it's a good investment. They may leave next
Right.
week.
And that's why you end up with all these non-competes and stuff like that. So all they're not trying to be mean about it. They're just trying to
themselves.
protect their investment.
Yeah.
So it's I'm just kind of curious, but you go through the apprenticeship in the Bullet Makers Union. Are you bound to them for a certain period of time, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, but like if you want we got a pension and annuity, and you've got to work 5 consecutive years to get vested to be able to draw that say pension. Okay, now they're 5 consecutive years of 1,000 hours each year. If you don't get that, you may work 20 years before you get that 5 consecutive hours. And say you quit and you ain't had your 5 years with the 1,000 consecutive hours, all that pension you lose. You don't get it. So yes, you are in a way, yes, you're tied down. Once you get vested, then you're kind of free and you can do what you
basically
want.
that 5-year window is they're hoping they recoup all the money they spent on
You as training.
So it's
Yes.
incentive to
Yes.
stay with the hall
Yep.
through that period of time, which I get that. You know, the first couple guys that I trained to get their CDLs, one in particular that don't work with me no more, so it's not Captain Kleeman. I'm sure somebody's going to comment on that, but the other one, you know, I trained him. It took me 6 to 8 months. Probably cost me $1,500, $2,000 to get his CDLs. And 6 months after he got his CDLs, he left me and took a truck driving job for more money.
Right.
And you know, I made the mistake of believing that he was a long haul employee. I cannot fault him for chasing. This other guy offered him stuff I couldn't offer him. I wasn't going to play the compete game.
Right.
So I'm not going to dog him for chasing a better job, but it kind of left me in a bad spot. Mm-hmm. So the next guy I trained to get his CDLs after that, it was a very simple process. If you work for me for 5 years, you're free and clear to do whatever you want with that CDLs after that. If you leave before 5 years is up from the date I paid to get your CDLs, you owe me $5,000.
Right. Which is up for those listening that don't know. That's about what it costs.
About what it costs to get a CDLs.
Yeah.
So long story short, if my math told me if you worked for me for 5 years, I'd recoup my investment of you getting your CDLs.
Which goes back to what you two were talking about in the beginning, that $2, maybe $3 an hour that an employer is looking to get out, or that will profit off of an employee, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a while because there's other costs that go up with it. Insurance goes up. They got a newbie driver on there.
Oh yeah.
The newbie driver is going to tear something up, so I got maintenance costs. It's just part of it. So, but anyways, so he had the option to get out. I wasn't pinning him down.
Right.
But he.
You keep talking.
So anyways, yeah, he had the option to get out. I wasn't pinning him down, but it was a way to be fair to both of us. You know what I mean? It was a way for me to protect my investment. It was a way for him to have options to do other things. Because who knows what's going to happen over the course of 5 years? I mean, a lot of things can change. So
right.
That was just one of the things we implemented.
And I mean, there's nothing that says that you're gonna. Maybe he leaves 4.5 years, has some serious major issue. You might not even push that contract. You might just say, "Look, give me a couple $100."
Yeah, and that goes back to having a good relationship with your employer and trusting.
Yeah.
Trusting who's in charge. And I understand in the large corporate world, sometimes you have less control over that, and that's one reason why I do not work in that world.
Right.
But again, that is the world some people enjoy, and that's the world some people decide, and you just have to be comfortable with your decision.
Right.
Even as an employee, at the end of the day, in a lot of ways, your fate is still in your hands.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nobody is holding a gun to your head making you work somewhere.
Right.
I mean, if they are, you're no longer an employee or something else.
And right now in 2021, I'm still convinced there's more opportunities in this country than there's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that.
Yeah.
If you're willing to work and you're willing to show up, you're willing to go for it. So, but I guess we can transition into a little bit of, I've ran my business 2 different ways. For the course of about 10 years, I had anywhere from 4 to 12 employees.
Right.
And man, where do we go from there? It's what it come down to for me, and I'm not going to discredit anybody. I mean, I was very, very, very fortunate that, honestly, most of them, or a lot of the guys that worked for me, were good guys. Mm-hmm. Some of them were my friends. Some of them were family. Some of them were people that turned in an application and I just hired.
Right.
One of my best employees I had, I called every reference on his employee, and every one of them told me not to hire him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he ended up being a pretty good employee.
Right.
So you got to kind of have a little bit of a read on what's going on yourself. But as time goes on, for me as a small business owner, which got very hard and very frustrating to deal with, is we were building high-end custom homes. We had systems, procedures, and processes that were quite a bit different than the way everybody else was doing it. We developed these over the years.
Right.
So you could you could work here for a year, and not that I was a control freak or anything, but it would take you that long to learn how we wanted stuff done. Mm-hmm. So, I'd bring a guy on staff. Let's just call it a year training session.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he's trained up. I got him where I want him. He's doing good. I'm paying him what I think's a fair wage. And competitor down the road calls and offers him $2 an hour more. And, I had this conversation with a lot of them. I said, you're $2 an hour more. I said, is he giving you retirement? Is he guaranteeing you 40 hours a week? Mm-hmm. Is he giving you a company truck? Is he paying for your gas? Is he flying you to Vegas once a year?
Right.
Is he giving you a Christmas bonus? You got a Christmas party?
Right.
Like, a lot of times if you had a lot of this stuff up, a lot of these guys left me for more on the hour and made less on the year.
Well, yeah, most people don't think that way.
And
unfortunately,
it got extremely frustrating that I couldn't get that through to a lot of these guys, and arguing them with them was not going to prove my point.
No.
I had a few of them leave and turned around and come back, but I don't know, 10 years of that, man, it wore me down. It's like, in a small company like what we had, you bring a guy on and you work with him every day. You get to know him. You get to know his family. You get to know what's going on. And
right.
And I did everything. I mean, I took on the responsibility of making sure their families were fed.
Yeah.
And there's times I went without pay so they could get paid.
Right.
And then somebody offers them $1 an hour more, and they're like, yeah, nice. Thanks for all the training, and away they go. And you just, I don't know, you get burnt so many times on it. It's just, something's got to change. Obviously, the mentality of the employee is not going to change, and I was able to accept that.
Yeah.
And it was time to go a different route. With that being said, I understand their thought process because I was an employee before.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fret somebody for trying to better their own situation. You just wish that they would look at all of the facts.
Yeah, I think that's the moral of the story is don't go off the hourly rate. Don't go off what somebody tells you. Like, dig a little deeper into that situation and see.
Well, personally, I left the job that I had previous to what I have now. I worked at a very large concrete company, and I was one of the lead A-level service techs, and I took a $6 or $7 an hour pay cut to go where I am now. However, my year-end salary gross is probably 2 or 3 times the amount that I made there.
Right.
Because here I've got many incentives. I get paid for travel. I have a company truck,
Yeah.
and then I have overtime, which we never had.
Everybody wants to know what that hourly rate is. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
And that's a small piece of
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw something in.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's the people you work with.
Yeah.
If you go to a job, it don't matter. It's like what I do now. I love it. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you go to a job and where it's like misery.
Yeah.
I mean, it's miserable to go to work because sometimes it's the employer, but sometimes, a lot of times in my trade, you see it's the people that are working around you.
Oh, yeah.
And it could be just a terrible job. You don't want to get up and go.
Negativity is a cancer in itself.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, we get this, people who follow us on YouTube,
Yeah.
we get this comment a lot. Like, I don't know how you guys get anything done. All you're ever doing is joking and horsing around, yada, yada, yada. And if they actually followed around, you've seen this at some points, if they actually followed us around today in our shoes.
Well, first of all, I'm pretty confident that most people who write that comment couldn't keep up with either one of you walking around.
Yeah.
All day.
I mean, the productivity, I don't, there's people out there that'll keep up with us. I ain't going to say that.
No, I'm saying
But
that
the
majority of the people that don't understand that y'all are showing, 5% of your day, and you're joking around and everything like that, but it's possible to joke around, have a good time, and get work done at the same time.
Yeah, the productivity level is I mean, what the two of us accomplish is mind-boggling. It's even mind-boggling to me, and I live it.
Well, you've both met Brandon back home, and he and I did the job of 6 mechanics for 4.5 years. Never had we had 2 days of downtime.
Yeah.
In 4 years, the two of us. But we laughed I never felt like I was going to work. I left from the time I got in to the time I went home, and we crawled through some of the worst things you could imagine and just laughed the whole time.
Yeah, you know, and to, you know, fast forward a little bit, you know, I did the multiple employees for 10 years, and I finally got to the point of realizing that we tried offering different incentives. We tried offering different things to them. Like every time we had a group of guys roll over, we always thought, well, what did we do wrong? How do we keep the next group of guys around to stay?
Right.
And finally, after 10 years, we ran out of options.
Which most people don't even think that, honestly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we added company trucks. We added retirement. We gave them an insurance savings plan. We, you know, gave them freedom. We gave them, you know, just on and on and on, you know, gave them trips and stuff. And we went on and on and on. and finally, at the end of 10 years, we just, you know, we were out of options. So the next option is no employees,
Right.
which is, you know, kind of where we're at today, and we'll go down that route a little bit. But it's
Now,
go
as
ahead.
far as what you're talking about there, how do you feel now about the younger generation as far as the good help you can find?
Well,
'Cause I've got my take on it
yeah,
too.
a
But,
couple
you
different
know,
things there. You know, I'm 40 years older. We'll be here in about a month. And whenever I was in high school or graduating high school 20 years ago, the premier job to have was working for a construction company. You know, that was like the go-to summer job. You were going to make 3 times more money doing that. You were flipping burgers at Wendy's. Everybody was wanting that job, or working for a farmer. Mm-hmm. So the first job I got in construction out of high school, I had to fill out an application and apply for it, go to an interview process, and then hope I got it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yep,
So I ran a construction business for over 10 years, and I had to beg people just to show up for an interview, more or less, even
Yeah.
a job. You know what I mean? And then when they showed up, you know, they were immediately over the sweeping up the job site or running a shovel. You know, they wanted to go straight in to learn how to run equipment and
Yeah.
run saws and stuff like that. And, oh, man, I don't, like, it's not feasible. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind to sweep the floor and run the shovel myself.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, some days I enjoy that more than anything because there's less thinking involved. But yeah, that's a struggle.
I feel it is in the trades. I think trades were.
I think it is in any industry. I think, especially if somebody graduates from college, they think they're entitled to skip in the first 4 or 5 steps of their job. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I think there's more of a sense of entitlement in like the white collar work.
It's like a boiler versus a Kubota. I feel that them engineers that design stuff, whether it be on a piece of equipment or in a boiler, I think that they should have to be hands-on at least 5 years to understand.
Absolutely.
And I know every industry is different, but it seems like they came straight out of college and they are very, very smart, but they don't realize what it takes to work on this or that.
I kid you not, this is a 1,000% true story. I was working at work. You guys both know where I work. I still can't say on here where I work, but I work for a very specialized industry that's funded by the federal government. And we had a new project engineer come on the property. He was hired for, I think, $300,000 a year salary. And he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, I'm such and such. This is my first day. I just got this job. And I'm going to be in charge of the such and such equipment division. Can you possibly show me what the such and such equipment is? I've never seen one before." And I stared at him for a minute. I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem, man." I walked him over to it, and he's like staring at it and just, I mean, completely ghost white, blank stare. This piece of equipment that he was responsible for is about 400 or 500 feet long. And it's probably a couple million pounds. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And he's just staring at it. I'm like, "You got any questions?" He's like, "I wouldn't even know where to start asking." He's like, "What is it?" So, I mean, I sat there for a couple hours with him going over this thing. But fresh out of high school, $300,000 a year, not a single clue what he's looking at.
Yeah.
But he had the right title and he knew the right people.
And that's one thing I like about Dirt Perfect here. You know, hey, he's like me, just like you. I mean, we're trying to push the trades in, and I feel like I've been hearing more of it, trying to get the youth more involved, not just locally here, but out.
Well, the
farther.
first thing we got to do is get the stigma. Is if you work for the trades, you're an idiot, and you're not smart enough to do anything else.
I mean, truth be told, that was one of the goals that you and I had when we started this podcast.
Yeah.
That is one of the goals that's written out of this podcast is to, actually show there is success in blue collar work. There's a lot of success. Yeah. It's obtainable. It's
There's
not
a
something
lot
to be
of
ashamed
very, very intelligent people in the trades.
Yeah.
Very, very, very.
Now, I will never take anything away from my wife. She is my better three-quarters, and she's much smarter than I am. She's a nurse. But we've had this conversation before, and it's 9 times out of 10 when you're looking at a patient, they'll tell you what's wrong. When was the last time you had a truck tell you what was wrong?
Yeah.
In all seriousness.
I've had an engineer that's never seen the truck that knew what was wrong with it before he ever even looked at it.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not taking away from her career or anything. It's just something to think about. You need to know what you're doing to be a mechanic. You need to understand theories of thousands of different systems to even have a chance of walking up to something and having a quick guess of what might be wrong with it.
And there's a guy, the poem is called Ditch Diggers.
Okay.
And he basically wrote a poem, and it's about where would everybody be without the construction workers.
Yeah.
And it is a very, very good poem. It's not, I mean, you can tell it comes from somebody from the trades, but it is a very good poem explaining everything. And that's one that I try to push. I push to the people I work with.
Yeah.
I push that poem quite a bit because the guy that wrote the poem did an excellent job explaining from the start to where we're at now.
It's been a while since I've heard that one, but I do know what you're talking about.
Yes, that's a very good one. If anybody ain't ever listened to it or
I've never
seen
heard
it,
but if I can
it's
find
good.
it and I can remember, I'll link it into the show notes.
Yeah.
So getting back to where we're at today, and kind of we made the decision with Simon Harris Construction. I think Josh and I even talked about this a little bit in our podcast we did.
I think so too.
That we've just come to the realization that it's unfortunately it's not us, it's the people. What we would never be able to offer what some of these large companies and corporations were. The reality of keeping a good quality long-term employee was just not there.
Right.
And whenever you're running the business the size we were, we couldn't do it just the two of us. We had to be dependent on other people, and we couldn't find people to be dependent on is what it come down to.
Right.
Again, I want to emphasize that we had a lot of good employees.
Yeah.
I'm not, these other employees had other opportunities, and I encouraged them to take them at times. The frustrating part was I couldn't offer those same opportunities. It wasn't feasible to do it. So, like as we covered in the other podcast, Josh went his way, and I kind of made the decision at that point of I wasn't going to take a job on unless I could do it myself.
Right.
I was not going to be dependent on other people. I was going to be dependent on myself to accomplish what I was going to do. I think it's also important to mention that whenever I made this change, I was fully prepared to make less money. That was just something I had come to accept, that, my company's not going to have $2 million in revenue no more. I'm not going to be bringing home X amount of dollars no more, but I was willing to trade that for happiness.
I would say, in all honesty, do you even care?
I don't. The only thing I really cared about, if you guys know from watching my channel, I don't care about shiny paint. I don't care about social status. I really don't care who the hell you are. I don't care if you're the president of the United States or if you're the guy, cleaning the toilets down here at the Derby Community Center. I'm going to treat you the same damn way. Yeah. Period. And I do. Grandpa taught me that at an early age, and I've been treated like the guys cleaning the toilets, and then people have found out who I know and who I'm related to, and they want to quickly escalate me up to the ladder to the president.
Well, they've showed their true colors.
And I have absolutely zero use for you at that point. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the president of the bank. I don't care if you're CEO of this. I don't care if you can't help me out. That you chose, I'm done.
Right.
I'm going. So you got me off on a rant there, Jason.
Well, on that point, he will literally give you his shirt off his back because I got 2 of them. Right. I did.
Well, I mean, I kind of bring that up because, we're getting ready to do that. the pay scale difference down here. I mean,
Versus where
cost
you're
of living
at,
and everything
yeah.
is different too. But I've understood that I'm going to take basically a third of my salary, moving down here. And initially, that's a little bit shocking. But at the end of the day, I'm not the least bit worried.
Yeah, because
I'd rather be happy every day.
whenever we made the decision to regroup, close down the construction business and ramp up the excavating business, which I was losing a business partner in this, but I was perfectly content making considerable less money and being able to spend more time with the kids,
Right.
doing what I enjoy, a lot less responsibility. I'm worried about my family now instead of 5 families,
Right.
and it was I was comfortable with that decision. It was a very even trade off for me.
This is kind of like a side street discussion, but it popped into my head and it's somewhat related. As a tradesman, for the three of us, have you ever in your life, after you've basically experienced being successful, had a fear that you won't be able to find work somewhere?
No.
Me, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as my trade goes.
No, I just mean in general.
Oh, in general? No. I think I could move on
to something
pretty good
else.
with the skill set that I
Yeah,
have.
I mean to elaborate on me first, and I want to get to Aaron because he's a completely different situation. It's worth talking about. But my trade is very wide. I mean everything from construction to flat work to vertical work to excavating to mechanicing. So I've had some awesome job opportunities to go work for other companies, and I could have made more money doing them. So not counting the work that floods in to my company alone. So I'm not going to jinx it, and I'm not going to act like it's never been a concern at any given point. But finding work is never the issue. Figuring out a way to choose which work I want to do, and how much of it we can get done in X amount of time, that's usually the bigger problem. Now, you're kind of in a little bit different situation because the actual trade you're in is kind of going to the wayside.
Yeah, it's a dying trade. I hate saying it that way, but as far as what I do as my career as a boilermaker, we work on 90% of our work is coal-fired power plants, and as everybody sees now, they're going away.
Yeah.
We don't have work in all these new plants. We have work building them, but once they're built, boilermakers are kind of extinct of going in. They talk like having an outage once every 10 years. So if you got all these new ethanol plants and all this going on, we won't get no work. I mean, we're just
How many of them
slowly.
are currently up and
Nothing
running?
is sustainable.
Yeah. And
So how many of them are currently up and running?
what's that, the ethanol? Well, see, that's in Indiana. I think we've got maybe 4 or 5.
How long have they been running for?
They've been, I'd say, like
Popped up
Edwardsport.
over the last 10 years.
Yeah, over the past 10 years.
Have they been living up to their 10 years, no outage?
As far as I know, we have not had no work in any of them.
Yeah.
So whether somebody else is doing it or how it's working, I don't know. But yeah, it's just like a gas plant. We build them, but then after that, it goes on to different trades.
Okay.
Different trades get the
Got
work after it's built. So yeah, it's kind of one reason that I'm doing what I'm doing now is adventuring out. And I love all trades, from carpentry work to getting into the excavating dirt.
That's kind of what I had meant when I asked. It's it's
Yeah.
not finding work for your business. It's okay. Tomorrow something happens, your business is gone. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're-
I mean, the newer technology's coming in for power, for electric, so we're kind of on our way out. I mean, I hate saying that, but that's pretty well what's happening. And
But then, are you concerned for the future? Do you think you'll be able to find a job somewhere doing something?
I feel 110% confident I'll be able to move on. And
If you want to work, you can work.
yes,
Right.
yeah,
That's kind of what I mean.
And a lot of your fellow friends in the Boilermaker Hall, they have went to other trades, millwrights
Yes.
and pipe fitters, and
yeah,
some went to laborers. I think a few went to the operators. So
operators.
I mean, every one of those trades is looking for people, so they're kind of getting absorbed by other trades.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the concern for him? And this is a whole other topic. Is he's invested almost 20 years,
Right.
and he's just hoping
19 years, March.
hoping it's hanging on, hoping this hangs on long enough. He still gets his retirement. He's been paying for X amount of years. So
Yeah, that's where, like he's saying, I'm too far in it
to back
quit,
out.
to
Yeah.
back out.
I'm
and
not
try.
suggesting quitting.
But
I'm just saying.
yeah, I'm pretty well, but I had to move on. I had to move on and find a secondary job because our work is getting so scarce. So,
Right.
yeah, but I'm gonna stick it out, and I'm gonna go get my hours, and whatever happens. But I'm ready to move on if I have to.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of segues us into the next part of this, and that's how I'm structured now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, last year, so technically, and I'm air quoting this for people who can't see it, technically, I did right at $1 million worth of business last year, and I don't have any employees. I mean, I'm a one-man show.
Right.
It's me. Now, if you guys follow me on my channel, you know that's not completely true. That's more of a technicality statement than a reality statement.
Yeah.
He gets lonely. He just needs a companion there to coach him on.
So,
And the dog's not doing good for him. So.
Yeah.
this is kind of an involving process a little bit. You actually started working for me before I was doing YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you've been kind of involved in this. And actually, whenever you started working for me, I was still doing the construction business.
Yeah.
So this has kind of been an evolving process, but basically what it's come down to is I made this deal with myself that if I'm going to take a job on, if push comes to shove and I absolutely have to, I can do it myself. I don't have to be dependent on other people.
Right.
And it's just like the other day. He's finding out how emergency outage pops up. I got to leave.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
survived. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Would I much rather had Aaron there help me? Absolutely. But he had emergency outage, and Matt that helps me had family vacation and a puppy stuck in a dog, and
Right.
that sounded weird, but it was true.
So,
But I'm like, all right, let's go. Do what you guys need to do.
Right.
I'm cool. I'm set up. We may be a day or two behind, but hey, I'm not. Everything will work out. So
Yeah.
my mentality at this point is over the years of being self-employed, I've been fortunate to have some really good employees. Matt or Aaron never actually worked for the construction company, but we worked together at another company we're involved with. Matt actually worked for me back whenever I worked for the other construction company. He was my helper. We both worked for a guy, but he was my employee per se on the jobs.
Kind of like how Kleeman was.
Yeah, Kleeman was too. Now Kleeman actually worked for me in the construction company.
Right.
He worked for me for about 5. He was the longest employee I had. I think he worked for me for like 5, almost 6 years. So basically, all these guys are out now. They're professionals. Matt had a professional career in sales. Kleeman took a professional career of firefighting. He's a boilermaker. But fortunately, they all have some free time and are looking for some stuff to do. So I just kind of assemble in this little hodgepodge team of guys I can pull on. Matt helps me with sales a little bit. He also helps me on the job. Kleeman's got a CDL, so he helps me with trucking and some logistic stuff, and he used to help me with a little bit of office stuff on some septics and stuff. And then Aaron's able to help me in the shop and help me on he's learning how to operate and do stuff like that. So I kind of know these guys' schedule, so we'll kind of put stuff on the schedule based on who's available. And, that works within reason, just like he had an emergency outage the other day. But the flip side of that is I'm not fully committed to them. I'm not promising them 40 hours a week. I'm not promising them retirement. I'm not promising them all this other stuff. They got other jobs to do that. But come back around to this side of it, I fully understand whenever Matt has to go make a sales call, or Aaron has to go into emergency outage, or Kleeman had a rough night at the fire department running all night and they can't work the next day. It's a two-way street.
You're happy for the help when you can get it, but you're not dependent on it.
And my workload is accelerated to the point of where we're pushing ourselves all pretty hard. I spend more time trying to keep the reins pulled back than keeping the work flooding in. But you can speak about that a little bit from your perspective on the other side of it.
Well,
no boy, here we go.
I come to work and I want to have a good time, and it makes it that, and he needs somebody to keep him in line. So that's my main job of it. But I feel bad whenever I get called out on emergency outage, because we'll set a plan as far as scheduled outages. Yes, I know when I'm going, a rough ballpark.
Yeah.
Like I can tell Michael, hey, in 2 weeks, within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be heading back in for a scheduled outage. Emergency outages, they popped up on us like last minute, and we had already scheduled to do work.
Hence the emergency part.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean they don't plan for that?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and at that time I was at home, and I was like, oh man. So then I called him, and I wanted to make sure I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure he'd be all right
Yeah.
if I was off. And then he's like, yeah, he said, I can have Matt help. So yeah, we'll be fine. And I got called in for a 1 day, 8-hour outage. Just I figured it was just an 8-hour. Well, we ended up finding more leaks in one leak. So then, I feel bad that I leave, but then again, because, I know it makes it hard on him if we have already planned something.
Right.
And I have worked for other contractors that it wasn't so understandable to him.
Right.
So that's one reason I love coming back to him, because he understands and he accepts it, and I'm not getting chewed out or something like that because I'm doing it. He knows that
Right.
I got to, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever got upset or discouraged you from
No.
taking a.
no, I think I feel worse about it than.
But I understand
he
that's
get-
his real job. That's where most of his life's been invested. I look at whatever time he can help me as a bonus,
Right.
and I'm thankful
Yeah.
for that. Not
He's got to save the world one leak at a time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the time he is able to help me. Not pissed about the time he can't help me.
Right.
Is kind of the way I look about it. But going down, and that also plays true with Kleeman. His schedule changes quite a bit. There's a lot of days he says he can work, and then things change and he can't work, and it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't get upset about it. I'm just thankful that I do get the days I do, and then and Matt's the same way. And then Jerry's retired. We should mention Jerry.
Oh yeah,
he's
Don't
retired.
forget about Jerry.
One of the huge, honestly, with Matt, Kleeman, especially Aaron and Jerry, those two for sure. I don't think, we never even discussed pay. I really don't think they even care what they get paid.
Right.
It's more about just having a good time, being productive.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's almost like just hanging out with your buddy and helping him
yeah,
out a little.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
like, hey, you want to go hang out today? By the way, we're going to go put this driveway in while we're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Almost keeps you sane too.
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, I got to pay these guys, but it's like Jerry. I mean, Jerry's good. I mean, like sometimes I have to go hunt him down to pay him. Like
Right.
he does not work for the money. He works because he enjoys being around us. He enjoys running a dozer, and I understand how fortunate I am to have a guy like we got a guy. We got a mutual friend that Jerry also works for sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And this mutual friend pays Jerry 6 or 7 times what I pay him.
Right.
And Jerry will choose to come work with us than they will him. And it's because of the job and the atmosphere, not the money, and he can't get his head wrapped around that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And for a future reference, while we're on film, Jason, this is one podcast I'd like you to do with this mutual friend we got that will keep his name disclosed
who you're
right now.
talking
Yeah,
about.
we're gonna. I want that one. That's gonna be a good one.
that's going to be a lot of editing on that one, I think.
We don't edit these.
I know.
My editing of our podcast consists of taking out the first 5 seconds where we're trying to figure out when we're going to start.
I love it.
And the last
Yes.
5 seconds where we're all saying goodbye and
Yeah.
post it up.
But yeah. But back to your, actually having a true business with employees. Is there anything you really miss about having employees like that? Or, I mean, I know you're buddies and everything, but I know there had to been a lot more headaches than what you do now.
No, I honestly, no. I mean, I got to think about this to make sure I give an honest answer. I mean, everything that I would have missed, I've got now plus some. And from an employer, and this is from an employer's point of view, which works out great for me, is if Captain Kleeman's supposed to work today and it's raining or a permit didn't come through or the customer changed the job and for some reason that's not going to happen, Captain Kleeman's perfectly fine with staying at home and not working, and I ain't got to pay him.
Yeah.
If he was on payroll that day,
Then
I got to find something for him to do that may or may not be productive or billable.
Right.
yeah.
And, I mean, you've never had this conversation, but I don't think it's no secret. If you're on the job working, I do the best to pay you pretty damn good. But whenever we're
Yeah.
up here screwing around the shop and hanging
No.
out,
Working until 1 o'clock in
working
the
until
morning.
1 o'clock in the morning,
No.
if you figured up your hourly pay rate, it would probably be disappointing. But at some point, it's not work. It's just hanging out and we're getting stuff done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to discredit these guys at all. There is no way that I could be where I'm at now without each and one of their helps. And I'm finally getting to the point where I can show appreciation on that a little bit more. But whenever we first started these relationships, I was not in a spot where I could do that. And as things are building, I'm able to kind of say, hey, thanks for sticking with me. Appreciate the help. We're in this together. We're going to show, what if I profit, you guys are going to profit. And as time goes on, I foresee that progressing up, but I got to do what's comfortable. I got to protect the home front at the
Yes,
same time.
exactly. It's like me. What I do here. One reason I do enjoy it is because I'm going home every night. Boiler making, sometimes you don't have that benefit. You're on the road for 6-7 weeks. But this, like now, I mean, don't get me wrong. You do work 7 days a week half the time, but you could free up, like get a camper, take the family camping now.
Oh, here we go.
But I mean, you could. I mean, it's just, I think you could actually pull away to enjoy a little
Remember
bit
that
of time.
conversation we had about if you've ever been scared to find work?
Yeah.
Keep bringing that camera up.
But no, I'm just saying it frees up. I feel like it should free up a little bit of time.
We've talked about these in other podcasts, and this may be off subject a little bit, but I refuse to fail. So whenever I made the decision to shut down the construction company, go without employees, and go back into excavating and start YouTube and all this stuff, I put 100% of my focus into it because I want to make sure all that's successful.
Right.
I think by the end of this year, I'll feel pretty comfortable that that's all going to be a success. Everything's trending in that direction, and
Right.
hopefully by that point, YouTube's been good to both of us, really.
Yes, it has.
And I love people. I love experiencing new things. So I'm hoping that I feel comfortable to, start doing a little bit of traveling, visit some people, go to some shows, do some stuff like that. Take the show on the road if you would.
Yeah.
But I'm
In
never
the
going
camper.
Well, you might
Yes.
need a camper if you do that.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to stop the excavating or this. And I fully understand that things still may change. He may get one of the best job offer he's ever had in his life through the pipe fitters, and he's working, a 9 to 7 or a 5 to 7 job. And,
Right.
Cleveland may get an administrative job at the fire department, and he's not available no more. And Matt's sales career may go through the roof, and that's not an option. And Jerry's not getting any younger, so I don't know how much longer that's going to be an option. But I feel like if any of those are all come to fruition, that I could still pull back the reins enough to go back to being me,
Right.
and carry on. I don't want that. I mean, that's not the direction I want to go. But it gives me some peace inside knowing that I could do that if I needed to.
Right.
Before I couldn't do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah, it does. But I would be a 9 to 3 job. And then after 3, I'd have time, and I'd have time before
Well,
9.
don't forget that
So-
you've got to come work for the other business that we're going to have
That is correct.
fairly soon.
And I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Yep.
That's one business that has never been mentioned on YouTube or a podcast, and it's a pretty big deal.
Someday.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe I've been able to keep my mouth shut.
There's one sneak peek of that life that's a pretty big deal outside of this life.
Yeah.
And that's a video that Junior put up on SOT Metalworks.
That's right. And I think anybody now will be able to figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah, but we've never talked about the details of it.
Oh,
and,
no.
we'd blow people's minds about the things we've done, the places we've worked.
Yeah. I'd like to see it finalized before it hits the internet, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, we'll cover that at some point. That's
That's actually an interesting guest opportunity.
Man, yeah.
That might be a struggle, but
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, that's a whole. Me and Aaron got some stories from some of those.
Yeah, we do.
Let's. I think we can say from an employee standpoint, talking about this other company we're involved with, that adding that to the mix, I've been an employee on that scale. I've been a business owner on that scale. I've been a manager on that scale. I've worked in 15 different major cities, some union, some non-union. So I feel like I got a little bit of credibility of being around the block.
And I think as far as the employees are concerned, with Aaron as a manager, they're screwed.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're figuring it out. They don't like me.
And we're running out.
Yeah, we are.
We're running out of time here, but I just want to bring, I get Aaron's opinion on this. You've worked for a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned a few different things. One of the reasons you like, working here with me is because it's a hell of a good time. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think the flip side of this is, and I've never asked you this, and he may throw me under the bus. I don't know. That's perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah, I may.
But, the flip side of it is I'm not the guy sitting in the office barking orders.
No, you are hands-on.
You know what I mean? Like, half the time I'm like, give me the crappy job. You guys keep your feet dry or whatever. You know what I mean? I've never asked you to do something I wouldn't do myself. Actually, I've tried to talk you out of stuff you shouldn't be doing.
No, besides the other day, we were unloading some braces off the truck, and he was in that cab. It was pouring down rain, cold, and I ain't ever seen somebody take their time like he did. Real slowly got them off.
Yeah.
But
The
Well,
one
you should
thing
know
on the
that
Volvo that works good is the
it was
windshield.
having a good time, though.
Yeah, you should know the loading and unloading thing. He's a little.
It's raining.
Yeah.
We leave. I grab my rain jacket. Somebody didn't grab theirs. So
Right.
you
But
know, but no, I do. My biggest thing was whenever I came out here, I was working with Michael only. I mean, but I was having such a good time doing it. It was hard for me to go back to Boilermaking. It really was. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great Boilermakers out there, but you always meet that one or two that just, and it's like, man, why am I doing this? But usually whenever I go to work, it's just like here. I like working with a small group of guys that can cut up and have fun that are the same as me. And then Boilermaking the same way. If I can get with that group that I usually try to run with, we can have a great time. But most of the time, you got one guy going here, got one guy going there, and you're kind of split up, and you don't know who you're going to be working with.
Right.
Well, it goes, to bring this full circle, it goes back to the engineer conversation. I would much rather, I'm going to give a guy that's willing to get down the trenches and understand my job to the fullest of ability a whole lot more effort than what I am a guy that's trying to tell me how to do my job that's never actually done it.
Yep.
And
You know what I mean?
yeah. And the best thing about it is they couldn't believe he'd get dirty. And in one of my videos, last video I posted now, he was actually getting down grinding. He was doing a big part of the grinding, and he had that grinding dust all over his face. I was in heaven. I was happy to see that. And I think the viewers were too.
That's one thing I will say. I hate grinding.
Oh, yeah, I do too. I really do.
Well, on my channel, my defense is hard to video and work at the same time. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's an OSHA violation.
Yeah.
That's right. Hide behind it.
So they have to go to your
was-
channel to actually see me work.
You know-
Every once in a while, I put it on time lapse, and you get to see me working in supersonic mode.
And now that you have been on your own, the weather's getting nicer, and it don't look like work's slowing up either. It looks like
No.
you're going to stay plenty busy.
Yeah, we are. We better pray for very few emergency outages.
Yeah.
We got a lot of work ahead of us. We're very, 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 very fortunate, and we get this one job we're working on now behind us this week. A lot of this work coming up's the stuff we really enjoy, and the stuff that the two of us can tackle.
Yeah.
Kind of two-man tag teaming, I guess is the best way to put it. These ICF jobs on my channel, that's what we were known for in the construction industry, and it's been hard for me to outrun it. And honestly, they're good, profitable jobs, but they take a lot more manpower and labor. And sometimes these jobs are hard to manage because, it's not available.
Right.
So I think you guys in the future are going to see less and less of the ICF on the channel for that reason, the manpower and the labor reason. But
Well, you've got one really big ICF job in the works.
yeah, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. No, boys. Opportunity of a lifetime. We're going to turn her down.
Nope.
Yep,
You're gonna say okay.
No.
Yep,
No,
yep.
I've learned over the years, being a yes man don't always get you to the top.
It's not being a yes man.
No, not going to happen.
Don't you think he should take that job?
I think so.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Aaron, this is coming from the guy that will not be here to help us if I do take that job.
Baloney, I won't be. I will 1,000% be there for the entire job, and I don't need pay.
Anyways,
A handshake would suffice.
Anyways, we're getting off subject there, but I think that kind of covers the thought process behind how I operate. I fully, completely understand that motto or model will not work for everybody.
Yeah.
No, it won't. But
I do think if you're an employer, being transparent with your employees and being honest with them and keeping them informed to the best of your ability is definitely in your best interest to do that. Mm-hmm. And there's some things you can, tell the employees as a group, and then there's some things you need to tell key employees so they know what's going on. Mm-hmm. I don't want to elaborate about it, but we had one situation like that I wish I would have handled quite a bit differently. Actually, if it was up to me, I would have handled it quite a bit differently. But, nevertheless, it was a good learning experience about being transparent. And your employees are part of the team. They're part of the company, whether you want them to be or not. So you need to, sometimes you can't tell them everything. It's contractual issues and different things like that. But you need to tell them as much as you possibly can. My guys, when they were working for me, they'd always ask, we got more houses coming up, we got more work coming up, and I'd tell them we got this in the works, this is for sure. We're probably heading here next, so when we get here, this is where you're going. And it always gave them just the ease of mind to know that, they're not going to be twiddling their thumbs or questioning their paycheck after this house was done because the next one was on the hook and they had the details of it. So, as an employer, whether you're big or small, I think the more you can communicate with your employees and keep them in the loop of the short-term and big-term plans and kind of what the thought process is, the better off you are. So.
When you get in the boat we're in now, best part about not being an employee for him, he can't fire me. But I appreciate you guys letting me come back for another one of these.
I appreciate you being here.
I felt like I was in suspension or something,
No, so, I haven't been here.
You haven't, have you?
No.
Well, it's nice to be back.
Yeah, I haven't seen him for like 4 days. He's been actually working. The funny part is his boss on the bullet making side of it is actually a big fan of the YouTube channel.
Yes.
So he's got my phone number now, so he calls me and asks me if he can borrow them.
Yeah.
My response is, I'm tired of them anyways. I'll straighten them out.
Yeah, he gets the point. I need a break.
But no, like I said, as always, you guys can find us on all the major streaming platforms now.
Yep, we're on all of them.
Still on YouTube, A Few Points from Perfect.
Yep, YouTube comes out Sundays, and streaming service will be released on Fridays.
And got any suggestions or any guests you'd like for us to have, or any topics you'd like for us to cover? Email us at email or comment.
Yeah, you can comment on YouTube, send us an email, afewpointsfromperfect@yahoo.com. That's about it.
Yeah, Aaron, man behind the scenes. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for the invite again.
Appreciate it.
As always, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.